Level 1, the courier. You're 19 and you work at a legitimate art shipping company in Geneva. Your job is simple. Pack paintings, load trucks, process customs paperwork. The pay is terrible. 2,000 francs a month to handle canvases worth millions. You can't afford rent in the city. You sleep in a shared apartment in the suburbs with 4 other people. One day a client asks you to deliver a package personally, not through the company, just you. He'll pay 500 francs cash. No paperwork, no questions. The package is small, wrapped in brown paper, lighter than you expected. You take it to an address in the old town. A man answers the door. He doesn't speak. He takes the package. He hands you an envelope. You leave. Inside the envelope is 500 francs and a phone number written on a card. No name, just 10 digits. You keep the card. 2 weeks later, you call the number. A woman answers. She asks if you're available tomorrow. You say yes. She gives you an address and a time. 1,000 francs for the same work. You show up, you deliver, you collect. The packages are always small. The addresses are always expensive. The money is always cash. You don't ask what's inside because asking questions means losing the work. You're making more from these deliveries than your actual job. After 3 months, you quit the shipping company. You work for the number full-time now. You're a courier in the gray market, moving objects between people who don't want records. You tell yourself it's probably fine, probably legal, probably nothing you need to worry about. You know you're lying to yourself, but the money is real, and the rent gets paid, and that's enough for now. You're 24, and you've been running packages for 5 years. You know the routes, you know the clients, you know which border guards take bribes, and which customs offices don't inspect certain shipments on certain days. The woman on the phone trusts you now. She gives you more responsibility, not just delivery, coordination. You arrange transport for items moving between countries. A painting needs to go from Milan to Munich without appearing on any manifests. You handle it. You hire drivers. You create false documentation. You know a guy who makes custom stamps that look real because they are real, just used for purposes customs didn't authorize. You coordinate the timing. The pickup happens at 3 a.m. The border crossing happens during a shift change. The delivery happens to a warehouse registered under a shell company that exists only on paper. The painting disappears from one collection and reappears in another with no traceable connection. Your cut is 10%. The painting is worth 2 million euros. You make 200,000 euros for 3 days of coordination. You're getting good at this. But you're also learning what you're actually moving. These aren't just paintings avoiding taxes. These are stolen works, museum thefts, private collection burglaries, art taken during estate sales and replaced with forgeries before anyone notices. You're not moving art, you're laundering it, making stolen property legitimate through a process of documentation and patience and strategic movement between jurisdictions. One client shows you a Caravaggio, an actual Caravaggio, stolen from a church in Palermo in 1969. It's been missing for decades. It's on every database, every watch list. Every auction house in the world would recognize it instantly. Your job is to make it sellable. Not now, not for years, but eventually. You create provenance, false ownership history, documents showing the painting belonged to a private collector who died in 1960. His estate sold it to another collector. That collector sold it to another. Each transaction supported by paperwork you commission from experts who specialize in historical forgery. Gallery receipts, auction records, letters of authenticity, all fake, all perfect. In 10 years, this painting will surface at a small auction house. The documentation will be questioned, but ultimately accepted. Someone will buy it for less than it's worth because of the uncertain history. That buyer will be your client, using a different name. The painting will be clean. You'll be paid 500,000 euros. You buy an apartment in Zurich. You drive a Mercedes. You wear expensive watches. Your family thinks you work in art consulting. They're not entirely wrong. You're 29 and you don't take orders anymore. You give them. You have a network now. Couriers in 6 countries. Forgers who can replicate any artist from the Renaissance to modernism. Lawyers who understand the gaps between national laws. Customs officials who retire early on pensions larger than their salaries ever justified. You broker deals between thieves and collectors. The thieves steal. You move and clean. The collectors buy. Everyone profits. The work is more sophisticated now. You don't just move stolen art. You orchestrate thefts. A private collector in Tuscany owns a Modigliani worth 15 million euros. The security is good, but not perfect. You don't approach the collector. You approach someone who works in his house. The maid. You offer her 50,000 euros to leave a window unlocked on a specific night. She refuses at first. You offer 100,000 euros. She agrees. The theft happens exactly as planned. The thieves are professionals. No alarms, no violence, no evidence. The Modigliani disappears. The maid quits 2 weeks later. She moves to Portugal. The police investigate but find nothing. The painting enters your network. You hold it for 3 years in a climate-controlled vault in Liechtenstein. You slowly create provenance. Documents dated to 1947 showing the painting belonged to a Jewish family who fled France during the war. They sold it privately in Switzerland. The buyer sold it to another collector in Argentina. That collector's estate sold it to a dealer in Singapore. The story is tragic and complicated and completely fabricated. Every detail is supported by paperwork that passes expert examination, because the forgers you use are better than the experts who examine their work. You approach a buyer, an oligarch with more money than taste who wants legitimate art to decorate his London penthouse. You offer the Modigliani at 8 million euros, below market value. He's suspicious, but the provenance checks out. His lawyers review the documentation. His art advisors authenticate the painting. The sale completes. You paid the thieves 500,000 euros. You're 34, and you've realized something important. The best thefts don't look like thefts. You don't smash windows and cut alarms. You walk through the front door. You start recruiting museum staff, not security guards. Those are too obvious. Curators, registrars, conservation specialists, people who have access without suspicion. You identify a registrar at a museum in Amsterdam. She's underpaid. She has gambling debts. She has access to the storage vaults where most of the collection sits unseen by the public. You approach her carefully, not with a crude offer, with friendship. You meet her at a gallery opening. You share interest in Dutch Golden Age painters. You have dinner. You never mention business. 3 months later, when trust is established, you mention a collector looking for a specific Vermeer study, not one of the famous paintings, a preparatory sketch that's been in museum storage for 30 years, rarely displayed, barely catalogued, worth perhaps 3 million euros to the right buyer, but almost invisible in the bureaucracy of a major institution. She doesn't say yes immediately. You don't push. 2 weeks later, she asks how much. You tell her the collector would pay 500,000 euros for access, not theft, just access, the ability to photograph and study the piece. She agrees. You pay her 100,000 euros. She provides access. Your team makes a perfect copy. The original is replaced with a forgery. The museum doesn't notice, won't notice. The piece is in climate-controlled storage. It won't be examined closely for years, possibly decades. When it is eventually discovered, she'll be long gone. The statute of limitations will have expired. The museum will face embarrassment, but no one will face charges. You sell the original to a private collector in Shanghai for 2.8 million euros. This model works so well you repeat it. Museums in Florence, Paris, Berlin, New York. Always storage pieces. Always items that rarely see public display. Always inside help. Over 5 years you acquire 17 works worth a combined 40 million euros. The museums don't know. The public doesn't know. The art world doesn't know. You know. Your clients know. That's all that matters. You own a villa in Lake Como. You have accounts in Switzerland, Monaco, and the Cayman Islands. Your official income is listed as art consultation. You pay taxes on 200,000 euros annually. Your actual income is 50 times higher. The gap between public and private identity grows so wide, you start forgetting which version is real. You're 40, and you don't need money anymore. You have somewhere between 60 and 80 million euros in assets you can't spend openly without raising questions. The work changes. You're not just moving art for clients. You're acquiring it for yourself. You build a private collection no one will ever see. A gallery in a vault accessible only to you. Art stolen from museums, private collections, churches, pieces the world believes are lost. A Rembrandt self-portrait stolen from a Boston museum in 1990. A Klimt landscape taken from a villa in Austria in 2019. A piece of the Amber Room, looted from Russia during World War II and lost for decades. These works can never be sold, can never be displayed, can never be authenticated publicly. They exist only for you in a temperature-controlled room beneath a property in the Swiss Alps, registered to a trust that shields your identity through 6 layers of corporate structure. You visit twice a month. You sit alone surrounded by art worth more than most museums. Art the world is searching for. Art you own in a way no legal collector ever could. But ownership without acknowledgement creates strange emptiness. What's the point of possessing the most beautiful objects human beings have created if you can't share them? If no one knows? If there's no recognition? The answer is supposed to be that the art itself is enough. The private experience of beauty, the knowledge that you possess what others only dream of seeing. Some days you believe this. Most days, you don't. You start taking risks. You loan pieces anonymously to small exhibitions in cities far from where they were stolen. The works appear listed as private collection, with no additional information. You attend the exhibitions in disguise. You stand among regular visitors who have no idea they're looking at stolen masterpieces. You feel something watching them experience art that wouldn't be accessible without your intervention. Stolen, yes, but visible. A Matisse, stolen from a Paris apartment in 2010, appears in a small gallery in Lisbon. You watch students sketch it. You listen to a professor explain its significance. None of them know. You know. The knowledge feels like power and poison simultaneously. You're 47 and you don't exist. Not officially. Your name appears in no databases. Your face appears in no photographs from the last decade. You've had cosmetic surgery twice. Not dramatic. Just enough to break facial recognition algorithms. You own nothing directly. Properties are held through trusts. Vehicles are registered to shell companies. Bank accounts operate under identities supported by documentation so thorough they pass government scrutiny. You've become wealthy beyond any rational need. Your collection contains 42 works worth a combined 200 million euros. Art the world believes is lost. Art you see whenever you want. But the law is closing in. Not on you specifically. On the network. Interpol has formed a specialized unit tracking stolen art movement patterns. They don't have names yet. They have patterns. Digital forensics analyzing the false provenance documents your forgers created. Experts identifying consistent forgery techniques across supposedly unrelated pieces. Investigators following money flows through jurisdictions that used to guarantee privacy, but are slowly becoming transparent under international pressure. People in your network are being arrested. A courier in Belgium, a forger in Prague, a lawyer in Luxembourg. They don't know your name. The network was compartmentalized deliberately, but each arrest closes the circle slightly. Each cooperation agreement brings investigators closer to the center. You attend the trial of one of your facilitators. You sit in the public gallery wearing glasses and a beard that aren't yours. You watch him receive 8 years. You watch his family cry. He never looks at you. He doesn't know you're there. He couldn't identify you if he wanted to. This was always the design. You make the decision. You're done. Not because of conscience, because of mathematics. The risk has exceeded the reward. You begin the exit. You sell pieces carefully through intermediaries who don't know they're connected. You move money through channels that fracture the trail. You destroy documentation. You sever contact with everyone in the network. One morning, you wake up in a house in New Zealand purchased under an identity you've been building for 5 years. You're a retired software consultant. You have a complete documented history. Employment records, tax returns, social connections. All real. All supporting a life that has nothing to do with art. The villa in Lake Como is sold. The vault in Switzerland is emptied. The accounts are closed. The collection is gone. Some pieces were returned anonymously. Some were sold. Some were destroyed because they were too dangerous to move. You sit on a beach watching the ocean. You have 30 million euros in accessible assets. You have complete freedom. You have absolute safety. You have nothing to show for 30 years of work except money you barely need and memories you can't share. Sometimes you think about the art, the Caravaggio, the Vermeer, the Klimt, objects of transcendent beauty you possessed illegally and completely, objects that made you powerful and invisible and wealthy and empty. The waves come in, the waves go out. Somewhere a young courier is delivering a package he doesn't ask questions about. Somewhere a museum registrar is considering an offer. Somewhere a collector is building a gallery no one will ever see. The cycle continues. The art moves through the darkness between legal and illegal, between lost and found, between possession and ownership. You got out. You survived. You won. The ocean doesn't care. The art doesn't care. 50 years from now, someone will rediscover a Modigliani with provenance documents you commissioned. They'll research its history. They'll trace its movements. They'll never find you. You'll be dead. The identity will be dead. The trail will be cold. The art will be real. The story will be false. And no one will know the difference. This is the stolen art trade. Not romantic, not glamorous, just patient and methodical and profitable and corrosive. You can climb to the top. You can possess what museums dream of owning. But the possession is always temporary, and the secrets are always permanent, and the art that was supposed to give meaning becomes just another thing you can't talk about. In the end, you're left with money and silence, and the knowledge that beauty doesn't justify theft, no matter how perfect the crime.